This is the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast.
Oh no! We suck again!
I'm getting confused. What game are you calling?
I'm calling both games!
It is caught by Kelsey! Touchdown! Kansas City!
I need 3 of those things, baby! We ain't done yet! We ain't done yet! You like that? You like that? I like that!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast, episode number 11 squared. I am Ruckus, always causing a ruckus.
And I'm Ruckus the Menace.
And Spennis also caused a ruckus earlier by telling me it's 11 squared, so you're welcome, America. So
That's a sign that people know how to math around here.
Yep, nerds at work. So what we have for this episode is a transaction log, where we will talk what happened this past week. And then the good, the bad, and the ugly Eastwood segment, where we talk mainly the what's good, bad, and ugly, obviously. And then the high heat week 9 recap for the NFL with the garbage time. And then the high heat, where we talk about the trade deadline that happened about a few hours ago as of recording. It'll be about a day or so whenever you see this. And then color commentary, where we talk about our mid-season review, about the biggest surprises, the disappointments, the storylines, the Black Monday alerts, the impressive rookies, fancy superstars, and bold prediction. And then we go to our football pick'ems, where it is where we predict our college teams that we either win or lose this week, and also the NFL teams of winners and losers. And then we finish it off with our stun of the week. All right, Spennis, the Menace, how are we feeling?
We're feeling pretty good. I'm ready for more football, ready for whatever's coming at us here with this episode, as there is plenty, and in good reason, that we were able to delay the episode for this week due to
Hold on. Are you like Chris Stapleton in the Monday Night Football intro, where you could feel it coming in the air tonight?
I felt there was something felt.
Oh man, that fires me up. Anyways, what? Before I interrupted you, what's going on?
Well, we've been at it. We've been kind of at it. I've had kind of more time on the road, and it's going to be nice for this weekend to have a break.
Amen.
Just a break from traveling so much in dealing with other related things. But to get right into the transaction log, we have World Series champions. And even though I wasn't huge on either of these teams being in the World Series, the Yankees lose.
And then
As
I'm gonna
the
do
Dodgers-
here. Let me do my version of the Yankees announcer without David Ortiz. That was the Yankees announcer having a stroke. Anyways,
I couldn't even hear like half of that.
I said like as in the, but I was doing the exaggerated part, but not actually adding anything else to it, because by the time he got to the Yankees won or whatever, it didn't happen. So anyways, that's the joke.
Yeah. But the Dodgers defeat the Yankees 4-1 in the World Series, including rallying from 5 runs down in the clincher. And Freddie Freeman won the World Series MVP.
And he did his Freddy dance in the first game, as he was trying to silence all the doubters about his ankle. He did his little Freddy bump. And also, the Dodgers pulled a big rabbit out of the hat, kind of like the Royals did with keeping the line moving and also just believing in yourself, even though the team others might be doubtful of it. Especially because the Yankees, they had a loaded team too, but their loaded team just wasn't as clutch as the Dodgers had been.
I am also going to say that I think that the Dodgers deserve this. The Dodgers were the most well put together team in that series. Aaron Boone got outmanaged. The Dodgers were able to to have more flexibility, and the only game they lost was a bullpen game. And they didn't even throw their best guys from the pen.
Heck, even the cookie that was led to him by Tim Wakefield wasn't good enough for Boone to get over the Dodgers. Yes, I said it. Also, I'm sorry for the Wakefield family. That was probably a low blow.
No, I was also telling you, thank you for reminding me of 2003. You jerk.
Oops. Anyways.
Eastwood segment. Just move on to the Eastwood segment.
All right, we go to the good, the bad, and the ugly, and here we go. Eastwood segment. All right, the Wah Wahs have passed, and what is the good this week in sports, Menace?
And I think our good is more so just a celebration of Christian McCaffrey finally returning to practice for the first time since the injury that has affected him playing the first half of the season. You will hear this a good bit more that the NFC West is the great wide open.
Into the great wide open.
It is a free-for-all, up-for-grabs race.
Rest in peace, Tom Petty.
That wasn't a free fall, a free-for-all.
You said into the great wide open.
Oh, yeah, you were going with the great wide open.
That's why I sang it. That's why I said. Anyways,
nice job. But,
see, my dad would be proud.
Yeah, I figured as much. I just couldn't remember if that one was Tom Petty or somebody else. That was all.
It's all good. It's all good. Keep going.
But yeah, Christian McCaffrey returning to practice. I think that the sight of McCaffrey coming back, it's gonna take him a little bit. But I think once you get a couple of games to get your legs back underneath you and kind of your speed back in rhythm, I think by the time that Christian McCaffrey is in full swing, the Niners are going to be kind of right back in it.
It seems like it's kind of that way near the end anyways, even though it's proven for the 49ers that the year after they go to a Super Bowl that most of their team is just like in crutches, but I don't know if that's the same microcosm of what they've done in the past. But I could be wrong, and I could be true out the gate. But I think CMC, he has got something to prove, and I hope that means well for the 49ers.
This is still not said that Brock Purdy has been very effective this season.
Definitely.
And you can't deny that.
I mean, his offense, the way the offense is built is that you can plug someone in and hope that the weapons go through with that plan.
But Brock Purdy is legitimately a good quarterback.
Indeed.
And then the not so bad this week, it turns out that the bad more so. I am going to charge this to Los Angeles City Planning.
California.
Because the Los Angeles Dodgers World Series Championship Parade. Normally, whenever you're in a city for a championship parade, you get some roads blocked off and a whole bunch of people are there to be able to see the team, and let the city celebrate. But LA traffic
Knows
is
how to
undefeated.
party.
Oh, no. Oh, why did you just Kanye that moment? Because I actually had that
Go ahead,
perfectly
go ahead.
encoded.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I said, LA traffic is undefeated. Yes.
LA traffic knows how to party. In the city of Compton. Shake it, baby.
I was going with the LA traffic is undefeated type of line just simply because that's exactly what the Dodgers had to deal with.
What about instead of shake it, baby, it's stuck in traffic?
But, like, you know how, like, Barcelona and Real Madrid, as far as their soccer series of head-to-head, they call it El Clasico. This is not the case for LA Galaxy and LA FC, as they call the matchup between the two Los Angeles teams, also known as the Los Angeles Derby. It is El Trafico. So they basically established this thing in 2014, but they call it El Trafico just simply because of the traffic. It was a name created by MLS fans and adopted by media outlets. And it refers to the notorious traffic congestion in Los Angeles alone, among the worst in the U.S. and in the world. So they came up with this punny name called El Trafico. And what did the Dodgers get stuck in? El Trafico.
Sounds like they need some
Perfectly.
Mucinex to take out that congestion, but that's hearsay.
It was perfectly fitting. But Ruckus, I'll let you get right to the ugly this week.
All right. So for the downright ugly this week is former Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas going postal, or as normal people would say, going scorched earth on Derek Carr via social media following Chris Olave's second concussion this season. Big oof.
But my biggest thing with this is that it's like Michael Thomas, as far as a wide receiver career, pretty much spent it throughout his time in New Orleans. Had really 565 receiving or receptions, 6,500 receiving yards. But here was the thing. His big 149 reception season, the quarterback throwing him the football
Drew Brees.
was Drew Brees.
Also, this was before Michael Thomas started throwing bricks at cars.
But Michael Thomas has shown that he was very anti Derek Carr.
Because he was throwing bricks at cars, of course. Of course.
But it's one of those things where Derek Carr was even saying, it's like, oh, there's only so much I can control with it. I put a ball where Chris Olave was supposed to get it. He unfortunately got hit. I mean, there are certain times where, yes, the quarterback throws a hospital pass, but we weren't expecting this pass to actually be a literal hospital pass.
Doo-be-doo.
But Derek Carr has not been the same for years. Apparently, there was a major injury or a back injury that Derek Carr had, and he hasn't been the same.
I mean, he has not been arguably as good since he was a Raider early on in his career. But I still think he was kind of mediocre. Even as a biased Chiefs fan, he has been mediocre.
It's like there are just certain situations with this that he plays more like David Carr. But other than that, I think we just go straight into the high heat because I can't really say much of anything else about this other than that the Saints have been dealing with everything. And now they're dealing it in terms of saying, hit the road, Jack, to Dennis Allen.
Oh, I should have said, you should have said hit the road, Allen. Just don't come back. But I see what you're putting down. I'm just being dumb.
But
all right.
Our high heat now goes into the NFL Week 19 recap is where we will begin. And our first one is a two-parter here. With the Eagles defeating the Jaguars 28-23 and the Jets defeating the Texans stunningly 21-13. And our question is a matter of the two particular plays that were absolute highlight reels. Who did it better?
Honestly,
the Saquon reverse hurdle or the Garrett Wilson Jumpman catch?
I think if I could do it better, I think if Chris Berman was on the call for this, you would have heard a whoop from Saquon as he did a reverse jump on a defender that was coming after him for a tackle and just went whoop right by him. And I think he did better than Wilson. I mean, yes, there have been many other receivers that could do what Beckham could do with the one-handed catch, which looks like an Air Jordan Jumpman catch, but nothing beats a little whoop from Chris Berman. Sorry, headphone users.
So, Wilson with the Jumpman catch, he actually, like how certain people would, they're falling backwards. Wilson actually went up and literally had his body contorted in the Jumpman pose, which is why they call it the Jumpman catch.
That boy's up to something.
But I am going to say that the Saquon Barkley reverse hurdle is my pick. But instead of the Chris Berman, I actually was going more with Kevin Harlan for this one. And how he went through, spun the reverse hurdle, and he's going over the top of the guy, and it's just basically the next thing I'm saying is Saquon Barkley with no regard for human life. Yes, even though Kevin Harlan was talking about LeBron James.
LeBron James.
As he was posterizing Kevin Garnett. But yes, this Saquon Barkley one completely had no regard for human life. And as it just basically was also just showing that Saquon Barkley, as far as just his instincts to be able to do that and time it perfectly, is just not human. I would love to see the sports science behind that in the percent chances of success that Saquon Barkley had just to complete the hurdle without hitting the linebacker. Like, that is the impossibility of the sports science behind it.
All
The
right,
next game we're
one.
going to have is the Chargers 27, the Browns 10. And the question here is more about the Chargers. Is there success that's showing at this point of the season? Becoming progress of a successful rebuild that, honestly, nobody's talking about.
I think that is definitely a valid statement, and I think the Chargers are definitely recharging and resurging ahead. As, yeah, the talent that they have isn't really well known, but it is showing very a positive direction for the Chargers' future. As the rookies are showing out, like Lad McConkey. You've got other guys on the wide receiver room, like Quentin Johnston. You've got um, Brandon Guyton, I believe is what his name was, from the wide receiver room.
Was it Jalen Guyton?
That might have been it. I think Brandon Guyton's a sports announcer now, but anyways,
No, well, there's Brandon Gaudin that's the sports announcer, but
that's probably who I'm thinking of.
Where I am going with this is that I believe that the Chargers are a team that has rebuilt well that no one is talking about, but simply the rebuild has been a different style a little bit. Theirs has more so been a pure addition by subtraction. But I think the reason why the Chargers' success and record at this point has been something that really not very many people are talking about is simply because their rebuild has been overshadowed by a couple of splashier rebuilds that have been going on from earlier in the season. And more of them have been in the NFC. The Vikings and how they've been able to retool their offense after Kirk Cousins left them in free agency. The Falcons, with how Kirk Cousins has been able to leave the Vikings and find success in Atlanta. The Steelers and how they've been able to maintain their composure throughout in spite of having really two quarterbacks, which in more situations say, "Oh, we've got none." The Commanders and how they've turned the team from a wasteland to a destination worthy of people wanting to come and play. The Bears and how Caleb Williams has been able to, for the better part of it, minus questionable coaching and defensive focus, and certain moments where the Bears offense is kind of just sputtered in kind of that framework of how the Bears have been semi-effective. I think that the Chargers have kind of flown under the radar because and I'll even say the Broncos and how they have been very effective in having Patrick Surtain be able to do his thing and be a shutdown corner.
It's also just the commitment and healthiness of those two as well, those two teams. Because of the fact that last year they had a very beat up quarterback near the end, but they also had a very beat up offense in Mike Williams with the torn ACL near the midway part of the season. You also had Keenan Allen, which was mainly a paper bones type player, not being healthy, and then you had some offensive troubles on the running game with Austin Eckler and a few others being beat up too last year, and now
then you bring up J.K. Dobbins, who has an injury-prone reputation, going from Harbaugh to Harbaugh, and Jim has been able to keep J.K. healthy.
I think this just speaks in volumes for the Chargers, and same with the
Yeah,
Broncos.
it's a quiet rebuild, but they could make the playoffs under the radar. Low key.
Playoffs.
Yeah, it's possible. Especially for how the AFC East that we thought would be a whole lot better is just completely fallen flat on its face.
We don't talk about the AFC East anymore. We talked too much about it.
Shut up.
All right, Cardinals and Bears.
Well, and I think we also can kind of clump in the Rams and Seahawks into this as well. But we can start with the Cardinals and Bears and saying, was this game more about the Cardinals and their pursuit of the wide open NFC West title race? Or is this more so a true hangover game of the Bears' woes following the final seconds of last week's game against the Commanders, where, you know it, the Hail Mary and Tyreek Stevenson losing complete focus to the point that he had to pull himself from practice and got demoted.
I don't think it's the Bears having a hangover of the game of the Bears. I think it's more just hibernation at this point, because the Bears just seem like they went into their cave already, and not in a good way, over the Cardinals, where the Cardinals are rising high and trying to figure out what to do for the winter months. And yeah. I don't know what the hell is going on with the Bears. In the Super Bear race that I have for my team, we're doing pretty well. But in the real world, I don't know what the F is going on with the Bears.
Yeah. I'm going to say that I think this is more about the Cardinals and really in the sense of hope that they have to eventually secure the NFC West title away. I think that this is that now that the Cardinals are seeing that at this midseason point, hey, this is up for grabs. And now they have a lead to try and get to it. It very well is going to come down to the final couple of weeks, the final divisional games, to where there will probably be one spot left for 3 teams, and one of them is going to grab it. But the Rams defeating the Seahawks 26-20. Are the Rams, as far as a team, gaining ground to be able to chase the Cardinals, who are currently in front?
I think if their studded stars can stay healthy and be productive like they have been, this could definitely put them in the right direction. I was a little bit surprised when the Seahawks had a great start to the year with Geno Smith and company, because of just the fact that it just seemed like we didn't know what the identity was for the Seahawks. And the Rams, we didn't really know the identity of them because of the injuries they had with Cooper Kupp. You had some shakiness with Stafford in the beginning, and also Nakua was out for the beginning of the season. So we didn't really have a damn clue what was going on. But also the resurgence of Demarcus Robinson, a former Chief, has really helped that as well for the LA Rams against the Seahawks.
I was going to say, so long as Puka Nakua doesn't try to be the Samoan Rocky Balboa, they might be onto something. Yes, Puka Nakua got ejected from that game against the Seattle Seahawks because he threw a punch.
Bow, bow, bow. Bow, bow, bow. Did he yell Adrian at the end too? Like in the first one?
He wasn't in Philly.
Does it matter though?
Not really.
Adrian! Anyways, next one.
Okay, Lions 24, Packers 14. With this strong start to the season, will the NFL please finally give flowers to MCDC for Coach of the Year so long as this run continues?
In a very cynical way, I'm gonna rephrase that is, will the NFL finally kiss the toes of MCDC for Coach of the Year? Should this type of run continue? Because I think if he gets, because when do they do the final voting for Coach of the Year? Isn't it like
I'm
before
not
the
too
Super
sure. I
Bowl?
think it might. Yeah, it is before the Super. Like it's definitely before the Super Bowl. I think it might be after the regular season ends.
I think what the NFL is trying to say is get to the damn Super Bowl and then we'll talk.
I am going to say this: the NFL Coach of the Year race is going to come down to two coaches whose first name is Dan. That is Dan Quinn and Dan Campbell.
I don't agree with the Dan Quinn thing, but I do agree with Dan Campbell.
Wait, what? How do you
Okay,
not agree? How do you not agree with the Dan Quinn thing?
because it's still an early uh, it's still early for Dan Quinn. Dan Campbell has proven that he can be very successful where he is. Dan Quinn, when he was coach for the Atlanta Falcons, we saw what happened with that. We saw the 28-3 in the Super Bowl. And then after that, he was just kind of a figure that was
His
looked
own
down upon
fault.
because of his success, because of his not much success. But he did get his numbers back up when he was a defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, and then became better as a head coach for the Commanders. I will give you that, but I just don't know if it's too soon to call that for Dan Quinn. Dan Campbell, abso-frickin-lutely, he deserves a Coach of the Year. But Dan Quinn, I think that's too early, dog.
Okay. Here's where I'm going to go with this. Dan Quinn. He is 50-44 as a head coach, 53-46 total. He's a good coach. He has legitimately shown time and time again that he is a good head coach. I think that definitely Cliff Kingsbury will be assistant coach of the year because that because of that Commander's offense. But Dan Quinn, in his time at Atlanta, yeah, granted that there was the 28-3, but I still am forever blaming Kyle Shanahan for that one. But that's beside the point. But Dan Quinn has a winning record as a head coach. Dan Campbell, I think, has eventually gotten to that point. And yeah, Dan Campbell has been a coach that is good. But yes, I am saying that just off of this season alone, Dan Quinn has been able to put all of the right pieces together to turn this Washington Commanders team fully on its head around. And yeah, Dan Campbell has developed a Super Bowl contender over time. But yeah, it's either the meteoric rise that leads to Dan Quinn getting it, or the steady grind that has come from Dan Quinn getting it. And that's why I said it's going to come down to those two. Because, I mean, other than Big Red, who has the Chiefs kind of in their position, and possibly Sean McDermott if Buffalo somehow manages to find their way to come around, or even John Harbaugh with the Ravens, and Kevin O'Connell with the Vikings, who else is going to step up and really make a potential disturbance in that it's either going to be Dan Campbell or Dan Quinn? Who else?
I mean, technically, Andy Reid could do that, but also, yeah.
I mentioned Big Red, but I said beyond the ones that I mentioned, who else? I mean, are you looking at possibly Matt LaFleur? No. Sean McVay? No.
The only way Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur are in the picture is that the McDonald's ice cream machines in those areas actually worked and weren't out of order.
Yeah, but that's sad. On to the trade. On to the trade deadline. Because the McDonald's soft serve machines are always inconsistent.
All
But
right.
the trade deadline. Here are the few major deals that I think really stick out. And I know you said Zadarius Smith to the Lions. I am throwing Marshawn Lattimore to the Commanders, Jonathan Mingo to the Cowboys, Mike Williams and Preston Smith to the Steelers, and Deontay Johnson to the Ravens. So my question to you is, who is the biggest winner of the NFL trade deadline?
So far, I think it's definitely both Smith and DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs, as your boy had 2 touchdowns in the red. Well, yeah, both in the red zone with the Chiefs, and did a Remember the Titans celebration in the first touchdown in the red zone. So I'm gonna say D Hop going to the Chiefs, and then I think Zadarius Smith is a good pick for the Lions because of how beat up their defense is, even though they've been very good without Hutchinson, with the backups that have come in his place.
My big winner, especially if he comes in, especially if Lattimore comes in healthy, I am going with the Commanders and Marshawn Lattimore. I believe that is going to be a winner. I also see that the Steelers could be a winner for a couple of their decisions. You get a rusher to you get an edge rusher to really opposite TJ Watt, and then Mike Williams to opposite George Pickens, and Russell Wilson being able to throw the football effectively. They've got something. And Deontay Johnson to the Ravens could be a small little sleeper, especially if Lamar Jackson can find him with the football. And D-Hop's underrated too. But my big loser is the Dallas Cowboys in getting Jonathan Mingo.
And in my notes, go ahead.
He's not even the top receiver in Carolina. You probably could have figured out a better way to pry a different receiver off. I think it would have been even more fun if they would have been able to find some way to pry Jalen Waddle off of Miami if they could have.
I don't know if it would be wise to pull Jalen Waddle, because most of the time he's been wailing off to the sidelines, and not in a good way, because of how hurt he has been the past few seasons. Also, speaking of Mingo, who the hell is Mingo? I haven't heard this guy's name until today. I put in my notes who the F is bingo, but still. Really, Jerry Jones? Also, my other biggest loser is the Bengals, because here's my stick with the Bengals. Even though I'm a biased Chiefs fan, you lose Zach Moss, one of the big name running backs that you guys had at the beginning of the season. You kind of used him, and then you went to Chase Brown to get most of the points to steal it and piss off the fantasy teams that own Zach Moss. Now you have Khalil Herbert, which in my universe on Madden, he has been outstanding. But in real life, he's just been kind of because DeAndre Swift has pretty much stolen the show over in Chicago.
DeAndre Swift and Roschon Johnson are the two backs there. I think that the Bears being able to trade Khalil Herbert to a running back needy team, I believe it is a low-key benefit. I do not consider this a loss for the Bengals at all. I disagree. And the reason why? Because Khalil Herbert, he may not even have to be the number one back in Cincinnati. He wasn't the number one in Chicago. He wasn't even number 2. He was running back 3. He wasn't getting carries. He went to a spot where there's an opportunity for him to get carries. And was Khalil Herbert a bad running back for the Bears for a lot of their time? No. They just upgraded to DeAndre Swift during the offseason and were left to really have Khalil Herbert as a backup and see where the potential lied. Since there was none, they eventually let him walk. And they got him into a situation that would benefit Khalil Herbert or at least benefit Khalil Herbert more readily than Chicago. So I don't see that as a major loss at all. Same with it is just that the deal is better than what it really looks.
Yeah. All right, now we go to our color commentary.
And we are in mid-season in review. And we have the first question being, who are our top 5 teams of the season so far in no particular order?
All right, I'll go first. I have the Lions as one of them. Definitely the Chiefs because they're still 8-0, but they've had what some people would call a heart attack grill kind of season where many fans have had to pinch themselves to see if they're still alive after a win. And then I have the Vikings because absolutely no one thought that they were going to be the same team without Kirk Cousins, but their secondary really proved it. But not only that, their quarterback, Sam Darnold, proved it. And then the Buffalo Bills is another one. And for me, they're a top 5 because their record shows it, and Josh Allen is not showing any sign of do or die or never say die attitude. And the Commanders, well, they surprised the hell out of all of us. Jaden Daniels has been straight up balling, and I think the Commanders have what it takes. And those are my 5 teams this season that are up on the top. What about you, Mr. Spennis?
Your 5 teams, I agree with 4 of them. The Lions, yes, I think they are potentially the best team in football. And I think it's simply Simply just the discipline that Dan Campbell puts to them and the effectiveness of how they play. I have the Chiefs in there. They're the only undefeated team left. That's fine. The Buffalo Bills are number 3 in just simply how well they have managed to be able to play football in spite of having no Diggs and being able to just work with the younger core for Josh Allen. And then James Cook has been running the football well this season. My other team that I have in there is the Commanders. Again, night and day. Jaden Daniels has been incredible. And I have just loved how his demeanor has been just like a seasoned vet. And he's only an early 20s rookie. But the team that I have different is another team in purple. And that is the Baltimore Ravens. How do you take an offense that does pretty well with running the football and make it even more explosive? Just add the big old choo-choo freight train that is Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry in this run of it has been an absolute Mack truck. As he is the only running back right now over 1,000 yards rushing. And leading the league. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with. And could very well be on pace if he keeps this up into possibly breaking Eric Dickerson's single season record at 2,105 rushing yards. There's a possibility, but I think he'll come up short. And your biggest surprise team is clearly one of those teams that we both put in our top 5.
I'm gonna put the Vikings because they definitely have showed a big surprise with Sam Darnold.
I'm going with the Commanders. And that is because we knew there was going to be some improvement. We weren't expecting it to be this fast. They weren't expecting to be on a complete rocket ship and just shot right to the moon. We thought this thing was just going to have a little bit of time to just still marinate and cook. No, this thing was more hot and ready than a Little Caesars pizza.
Pizza.
And here we now will talk about our biggest disappointments.
Disappointed! You're welcome. I think my biggest disappointment. No, my biggest disappointment this season is the Bengals because they have a healthy Burrow for the most part, but their disappointments have mainly been their weapons. Jamar Chase hasn't been the same since his rookie season, and T. Higgins has been battling injury after injury, while also being on the franchise tag. And the fact that Jamar Chase still hasn't really had a deal with the Bengals really doesn't help his case. And especially the running game hasn't been great either since Joe Mixon is gone. But they're in a very tight cap window on who they want to keep and who they gotta go part ways with. And that's why I say the biggest disappointment is the Bengals because they had high hopes, but those high hopes come at a price.
Oh yeah, I'm just gonna stick a knife in here and this is in the most satisfying way possible. The walking accidents waiting to happen. The Dallas Cowboys. It's like as if the Dallas Cowboys, practically in the trade deadline and in the offseason, have Jerry Jones has basically said and asked Magic Conch, what do we do now? Nothing.
Can I have something to eat? Can I have something to eat? No.
But as soon as the word nothing is said, Jerry Jones is over here saying, all hail the Magic Conch. And what does he do? Nothing. What have the Cowboys accomplished this season? Nothing. Are the Cowboys going to be any good?
No.
I was going to go with, yeah, how about no?
Dude, like, Dak over here is like, can I have something to eat? And the Conch is like, nope. And then he says it again, no. And then he's like, can I have something to eat? Here we go. And then she's like, no.
Yeah, it basically, it's almost like you've just turned Dak Prescott into Squidward.
All right.
But I still think this whole thing is I'm just seeing Jerry Jones pulling just the string of a Magic Conch shell.
Mr. Krabs. Wait, would Squidward be Dak Prescott then in this scenario, since Jerry Jones is probably Mr. Krabs, being all about the money, 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 money?
I don't know here at this point.
Anyways.
But the storyline of the season so far for us.
Alright, I'm gonna lay it down for you really quick. The storyline of the season for me is in the intro for this damn podcast. The updated part of it, where Chris Jones says, I need 3 of those rings, baby! We ain't done yet! We ain't done yet! 3-peat! 3-peat! And that is the Kansas City Chiefs 3-peat possibility, which is a big one. Your boy is hyped, is all I'm saying.
Let me take you back to circa last year, where the running backs were kind of having a little bit of a group meeting, and they basically were set around a Festivus pole, airing out their grievances of not being able to be worth their contracts. And airing the grievances of, oh, we're not going to be able to do anything because these teams are going to be throwing the football now. It's 2024, and what has been the one thing that has really shown itself true? Running backs are back, baby! The running back renaissance. And especially with high quality veteran running backs in Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley leading the NFL in rushing. Henry is the only one over 1,000 yards. Saquon's closing the 1,000-yard mark. And pretty much a good amount of the top 25 has at least 500 yards rushing. So those two high safety looks, teams are just going to run the football on them and gain a bunch of yards. Simple as that. And I think that the relevance of the running back position playing extremely well in the offense and mixing teams up is very, very effective. And that's why I'm saying the running backs are back.
It's like they were saying, when do we want our contracts? Now. Or, what do we want contracts? When do we want them? Now. And then they're like, oh, well, shit. Well, we kind of dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah,
And
well,
this year,
you can't really have a contract if you're not necessarily playing like you're relevant, especially with the certain numbers that you guys were dealing with.
Le'Veon Bell. Sorry, I had to get that out of my chest.
Oh yeah, but here's where I'm at is that it's basically like having running backs is like, okay, it became such a lost art. Now all of a sudden you have that nostalgic snack has all of a sudden come back and hit your grocery store shelves, and now the running backs are saying, feed me more, feed me more. Except for Zeke Elliott. We don't need to feed him anymore. But that's
yeah,
beside.
he's some stale Cocoa Puffs at this point. But anyways, next
But
one.
we've already had 2 coaches get fired in Robert Saleh and Dennis Allen. Who are 2 coaches that are on your Black Monday radar?
Kevin Stefanski and Doug Peterson. Kevin Stefanski either needs new scenery or just needs to get the F out. Either way, I think not only is the Brown situation bad on talent for the players, but their coaching has not been great. And the only time Kevin Stefanski was relevant was when Baker was still on the Browns, getting more commercials than actual football success. And
Dumpster fire.
and then
Dumpster fire.
Doug Peterson has just been he was all right the past few years, but this year it just feels kind of like the time that he spent with the Eagles after during the aftermath after the Super Bowl hangover that the Eagles faced, and then they had to get Sirianni involved, and then kick Doug Peterson out. I think Doug Peterson is better served as like a coordinator rather than a head coach. And I think Doug Peterson also walks. What do you
I
got,
believe
Spennis?
that while you have picked 2 from the AFC, I went and did 2 from the NFC. And the first one that I have on the radar is Matt Eberflus. And this has become more recent as Eberflus overlooked the last two plays in the series that led to the Commanders' victory over the Bears. He basically has had this team not be able to focus. The offense is ineffective. He's had question marks on the offense. He's a defensive coach that really doesn't really have his defense focused after having Tyreek Stevenson talk his trash. Talk his trash and then played like trash on the final play. So yeah, Eberflus is on my list. And the other one on my radar is New York Giants head coach Brian Dable. He went all in on Danny Dimes. Danny Dimes. You went all in on this quarterback that you could coach up. And Danny Dimes has been more like Danny Pennies this season.
And those pennies are worth more than the actual dime.
At
as
this
far as
point,
material.
yeah, that's kind of exactly what's going on. I mean, he'd probably have a great game at some point. Yeah, you can call him Danny Quarters, but he's been more like Danny Panties. And I think that Dable may be done, and there will be a new voice in New York. Two
All right.
impressive rookies.
We should probably rapid fire this, but yes.
Yep.
Impressive rookies. I have Xavier Worthy of the Kansas City Chiefs and Ladd McConkey of the Los Angeles Chargers. They've both been very good for their respective teams.
I have Jaden Daniels of the Washington Commanders and Brock Bowers of the Las Vegas Raiders. Fantasy superstars. We have 3 each.
I have Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, and Mr. Mustard himself, B. John Robinson. All 3 of them have been all very good. Go ahead, Spennis.
I have the freight train known as Derrick Henry, Mr. No Regard for Human Life and Saquon Barkley, and the craziest tight end in the league, George Kittle.
And
Bold predictions.
Bold prediction time. I will probably shoot myself in the foot more times than Plexico Burris ever will. But my gut tells me the Chiefs stay undefeated until early January. Yes, I probably just jinxed the rest of the undefeated season for the Chiefs, but I think it's warranted. So that's my bold prediction. Y'all can hate me all you want, but here we are. Spennis, go with yours.
I think the second half teams will probably start wising up to some of the running, but there will be at least 4 rushers that will finish the season with over 1,300 yards on the ground. And now we move on to the film room, where it is 125 to 102 Spennis heading into the next week. And our first game will be the Georgia Bulldogs versus Hotty Toddy and Ole Miss.
I'm going to take the absolute
Dogs!
dogs. I'm going dogs. Georgia Bulldogs.
I'm taking Georgia as well. The next question here is, can the Indiana Hoosiers stay undefeated as they take on the Michigan Wolverines?
I'm taking on Indiana.
I'm taking Indiana as well. And our next one here is the big one for college football for 4 points. Alabama versus LSU.
Crimson Tide. Alabama.
I am rolling Tide as well. And our 1-pointer, we got Clemson versus Virginia Tech.
I am taking Clemson.
You put your right wing in, you put your right wing out, you put your right wing in, and you flap it all about. You do the hokey chokey because you can't turn it around. Clemson is gonna win. Yes, I did just pull a line of the hokey pokey and turned it into the hokey chokey.
All right, next
I am
one.
taking the Clemson Tigers. Colorado versus Texas Tech.
I'm picking the Texas Tech. Yeah, I'm picking Texas Tech.
I'm taking Coach Prime in Colorado.
All right.
And now to the NFL. Bengals and Ravens.
I'm picking the
For 2
Ravens because
points.
they're going to clobber those Bengals, and Ravens nevermore. All right.
Derrick Henry is going to have a field day on the ground. I'm taking the Ravens. Broncos Chiefs.
How about
we're
those
both-
Chiefs? Yeah, you're welcome. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm taking Kansas City as well in that one. 49ers Bucks.
I'm picking the 49ers.
I am taking the 49ers as well, especially with Christian McCaffrey back, and if he's up to any bit of good speed, I think the 49ers will be fine. Commanders versus Steelers for 3 points.
I'm taking the Commanders because they have the talent and they have the consistency. Just keep it coming.
I'm taking the Commanders at home. Lions Texans.
Lions all the way, baby.
I'm taking the Lions as well, but this matchup right here, had this been at full strength, with CJ Stroud having the full weaponry of his receivers, and the Lions being able to have everything all together, oh my God, this could have been something that I would have loved to have seen as a Super Bowl preview. It won't be so much here, but I am going to take the team that I still think is pretty much one of, if not the best in football, in the Detroit Lions. And we're now getting to near the end of the episode, and it is now time for our stud and dud of the week. Ruckus, what you got?
My stud this week is a Shawnee Mission West graduate. That you know him well from his SNL days as a regular comedian. You also know him from the movie Horrible Bosses, and you've also seen him as a big slick man of the hour, and most recently you've seen him in Ted Lasso. Here is Jason Sudeikis. Him being a guest on the Manning cast that was during Monday Night Football, and he talked about his 1 year that he played football in middle school and how he was a defensive lineman. And I add the Shawnee Mission West grad is because he was probably about 10 minutes out from me, and I graduated from Shawnee Mission Northwest, so that's a little local kid in me nostalgia, thinking that's pretty damn cool that he was a West grad and I was a Northwest grad, about 10 minutes apart. That's pretty insane to think. And Paul Rudd also graduated from Shawnee Mission West. So I just think that's double cool, and I'm glad I got to see Sudeikis live during the Manning cast talking about it, and very proud of what he's accomplished in his career. He is definitely a wild card.
I am gonna say his Sudeikis' best show is Ted Lasso, by far. Ted Lasso is far and away, I think, Sudeikis' best. Is some of Sudeikis' best work.
And then my dud of the week is the New Orleans Saints falling short to the Panthers in arguably the worst way possible. Losing by, 1 or 2 points against one of the worst teams in the NFL.
Oh, here's the kicker. Over the last 20 years, teams had gone 275-0 with this formula. The Saints outgained the Panthers by over 150 yards. They ran the football for over 150 yards, and they won the turnover battle. And they lost to the Panthers. That was 275-0 until Sunday, where the New Orleans Saints lost their 7th game in a row to these, despite doing those parameters. So yes, when you're talking the New Orleans Saints falling short, I am just adding amplification to the embarrassment that the Saints should have for losing that football game.
You're good. You're good. Now for you, Spanish.
I just was amplifying it. That was all.
No, you're good. I appreciate it.
But here is one for you. Did you notice a touchdown celebration that Drake London and Amon-Ra St. Brown did?
I didn't
during their
understand the
particular game?
context of it, but I do know what you're talking about.
And the headstand.
Yes.
It came from over the weekend as Incarnate Word, a FCS school, Jalen Wathall pulled off the headstand celebration against Houston Christian, and it trended throughout the football world. And Wathall was flagged for his, of course, because it was a college football game that he did it in. But my stud goes to Jalen Wathall for being able to make this celebration go viral to the point that you had Drake London, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and even Eli Manning during the Manning cast do it. Do the headstand celebration. I mean, you see people doing like all sorts of different, like CJ Stroud had the squabble last year. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown was doing the slick back dance at one point for a touchdown celebration. And now they add this headstand. This is just showing how the Selly is becoming a viral thing in the football community, and how people just find a way to keep up.
Yep.
My dud this week goes to 76ers center Joel Embiid for getting into an altercation with a beat reporter, granted over some sort of comment that was made involving his dead brother, but it was written in something that just wasn't unreasonable, apparently. Embiid takes exception. They get into an altercation, and Embiid shoves him. After an investigation, Joel Embiid the final result was that Embiid ended up with a 3-game suspension for this. And Embiid hasn't really spent a whole lot of time on the basketball floor playing anyway. You just get 3 games further that you don't get to see him on the floor. Ruckus, go ahead and take us out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to this awesome podcast, sports podcast, I should say. This is episode number 121, or as 21 Tower would say, 21. This has been Ruckus, always causing a ruckus.
And I'm Ruckus and The Menace.
And we'll see you guys in the next one, 122. Deuces.
Deuces.